Alright peeps, welcome back to Timberborn. We've got a very special testy test episode here in the Cupcake's playground. Now the purpose of this testy test episode is to do a bunch of experiments and find out the best way to retain water. Now each one of these tanks here is 3x3 in volume with the little water source splot at the bottom. Our first boyo here is simply a control tank that's just going to sit there open to the environment and evaporate normally. Then we've got a sealed cave here. As the name suggests, this is a cave that is fully sealed up. And then beside that, we've got the unsealed cave. Maybe you didn't want to knock out the fancy little hour hangs, you know, but you wanted to save some water in there. Is it worth knocking those hour hangs out and levying it all the way up? That's one of the things we're going to find out this episode. Another thing we're going to find out this episode, which is why these are both currently the same. So the way we're going to differentiate these two is by covering them all up to the tippity top. And with one of them, we're going to pop impermeable floors on, fully seal that bad lad. And to ensure it seals, we're going to whack loads of braziers on so they'll gun out if it starts to leak. And then for the left tank, we're just going to pop a tribute ingenuity on the top, just so we're not all tickety-boo. But we're not sealing it like we sealed this laddie. And then these two here are simply just wooden versions of the same thing, whether you're getting the added benefit of using terrain blocks or levy blocks. So now we've got our two unsealed tanks and with two sealed tanks knocking right next to each other there. Well, last but not least, we've got the fully wooden levy here. There's gonna be no water leaching through this wood, it's all evaporation, but maybe the water leaches through the terrain here. We're gonna find that out, but not before we take the terrain down a bit and give all of these tanks a tidy little water source. Apart from this one on the end here, apparently you kind of put water sources on levies. I guess it's gonna be one bit of dirt there, just to make the water source happy. Now all of these sources are just gonna be very simple strength 1s. That way we're definitely not overwhelming these sluice gates here, which we're gonna have closed for now. So with all of those closed, let's pop some stream gauges in our control tanks and let the game play until we're up to 1.99 in the height there. Or 201, that'll do and all. And the reason why we're going to 2 height is because we've got this 2 high wall here on this cave. The only one that's not 3x3 in there. So that took us next to no time at all. Let's quickly press the number 8, jump into our 30-day drought here. And do a mild bit of overspilling on this bit of cave. Will it help it? We got up to a maximum 2.08 depth. Let's check it out here. Exact same, 2.08. So we are somewhat scientific here. At least our controls are the same if not else, you know. Didn't even see what this experiment was. Classic MiGly players behaviour, that like. With this experiment, we're just checking pure evaporation rates. We've got the open cave, we've got the sealed cave, we've got the sealed box, we've got the open box, and we've got the different levy variants. Now another thing before I forget to mention it, the only mods I'm using for this testy test episode is Harmony and All Daylight. Just so the speedy up bits are a bit less flashy. Other than that, we're completely vanilla. Oh, and I've unticked bad tides, so we only have temperate seasons and droughts. The temperate seasons are always 5 days long, and the droughts are always 30 days. Consistent worst case scenario here for testing. And I suppose another thing we're testing here is how long does a 3x2 bit of water last? You know what, actually, let's make that a little goal for this episode. Can we make this 3x3 area last for the whole 30-day drought? I do have faith, particularly in the caves, because the overhang are sloped. They're not quite a full block. They get to be quite thin at the very tippity top. Maybe that extra water volume will make the difference. Now it's officially went out of view there. Let's check in. We're a little hour halfway through. We've used up over half of our water in the open tank here. What about the open levy tank? Exactly the same. 0.74. Now let's do away with the terrain. See how we're doing with the other tanks here. It looks like we've got a fairly even spread, if I do say so myself. If I turn the buildings off, we can see all the way through. We can see only bloody sky. But if anything, it looks like we might be saving a little bit more water in the sealed cave. Looking here, we definitely have a little bit more water in box number 2, which is the sealed cave. We can do it again for box number 3. And then the rest of the boxes are very similar, apart from this one here, which has a little bit more water in it than the rest. So let's turn the world back on, buildings and terrain, and we're inside this box here. Which one is it? And it's the open top levy box. Ooh, how curious. I thought it would have been the sealed top one. I mean, it is only a slight difference to be fair. Like, it's not a massive difference. Unlike the sealed cave versus the open cave, that is a noticeable difference right there. As well as the completely open control tank in the sealed cave as well. We might be onto something here, like. And I will say I certainly hope we're onto something, because the reason I decided to do this episode is I spent ages in cavey pressurising caves, and I had it in my mind, through some very unscientific testing that we done. I may or may not have had to just go review the footage. 6.3 days is when this little open cave one ran out, and then 5.7 days is when all but the open top levee and the sealed cave ran out, and they lasted about half a day afterwards. I do apologise, I was explaining the reason why I wanted to test all this. But so far it's looking like it's worth blasting your cave away and sealing it up. But for now, I just want to delete this source and blow those two tippity top numbers up so we know it's all our there. And considering we've got an eye on 5 days remaining of that drought with a 2x3, I'm hopeful that our next experiment, filling these all the way to the brim, no overflowing or pressure building though, we're going to stop it as soon as it gets to 3 here. There we are, 3, greatest step 3. I mean, when I press 8 and gun into this drought, it's certainly going to gun up a little bit before it guns down. Look at that mild overflow on everything that wasn't sealed. So I suppose that gives the sealed tanks here a mild advantage, doesn't it? Just a mild one though. So let us whip out a real casual speedy up it and see if we get 30 days worth of irrigation with a 3x3 tank. And as well, see if you get less evaporation if your tank is sealed or if your tank is just covered. Observation 1, the sealed tanks stayed at that water level longer than the unsealed tanks, and the sealed cave stayed the longest. Let's see if that trend continues throughout the rest of this 30-day drought. And I wonder if the reason the sealed cave's keeping the most amount of water in is because of that little extra bit of room up the top that I was knocking on about during the last little bit of experimental speedy up bit. Would you look at that? I didn't even press number 8 and we've still got half a bloody block getting climbing. Of course it's climbing. Now I am going to real casually jump into another drought just so we can empty this tank here. Well, I've let all of the tanks completely dry up. As you can see, including drying up the actual source block at the bottom here, it took nigh on another half a drought. It could be the next big meta in Timberborn, the old 3x3 cube. 3x3 of water volume, of course, the actual shell's a wee bit bigger. But we learned during that there, that it's worth sealing these bad lads up, because if you don't seal them up, you get about a day's less water in them. And as well, let's quickly jump in here while this is filling up, and we should be able to see the water level rise all the way up and fill the crickety cracks at the top of this cave. Now this experiment we're running here, I'm going to let the water run for a full 5 days and just see exactly what we get. So as you can see, all of our sealed tanks are keeping the water in, building pressure nicely, and all of the unsealed tanks are just pushing water out every which way they want to. Because one of the things I found in cavey is my little sealed cave was seemingly filling up with infinite supplies of water. But is that just because it was a larger than 3x3 area? And we know now that we can keep a full 30-day drought in a 3x3 area. And I've just took the terrain away here just to see that the water does seem to actually go up all the way to the top where we have these little overhangs. Look at our little tanks of water there. We've got the perfect cubes and we've got the big spillage crosses there. And you can see some of our big reservoirs getting filled. Let's switch the world back on again and I'll show you my little measuring stations we've got here. We've got a measuring stick right in front of the flow. That's currently at 0.11. And then we've got a measuring stick down here at 0.10 because it hasn't quite settled out yet. It's a big old bit of reservoir here. And we also have plenty of stream gauges all the way up to measure any height we need. Till overspill, of course, but we've got bigger problems at that point. And while we're whiling away this 5-day temperate season watching these bit reservoirs fill up here, the next experiment we're going to do, other than the pressure testing, is that one that we mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Is it worth making a big old Levy reservoir, or should you just make it out of drought? You get the bonus irrigation if you do that and all, you know. Here we are, we're approaching the big 30-day drought. The water sources have slowed down, so now what we want to test, before we get too much evaporation, what's our water level like here? 1, 1, 1, 1, and 0.35. Not too bad. So kicking off this big speedy up bit, we've got 0.96 on both of these good old-fashioned stream gauges. Let's see whether the Levy reservoir or the terrain reservoir will dry out first, or if they dry out at the exact same time and all. And while we're doing that, we'll be keeping an eye on the stream gauge and the control boxes, and dipping the terrain down to see when the old water level drops. And I should have took the terrain down sooner. 12 days in, we still have over 3 blocks, and we're under down below 2 blocks in the open caves. And would you look at that? A full 30-day drought, and we still have 3 height blickety-block waters up in here. Look, I'll turn the terrain up and you'll see, that's the top of it right there. There's no more water to be stored, it's full. So 5 days of pressure easily gets you a full 30-day drought in a 3x3 area. Well, in the case of this cave, maybe a slightly more than 3x3 area with these little lower hounds. Like I say, we still have half a blickety block and the rest of them are all like, you know, the other holes are canny. Now, my next question is, when I quickly press 8 2 times in a row, the question I want to know now is, how long does this 3x3 blickety block worth of water actually last for? Check the time there, it was at 26.2 days remaining of this drought, and I'm on speed 5, so we'll comfortably say that that was 27 days when we finally got below 3 blocks worth of depth there. How wild is that? Now the rest of the box should drain as normal because there's no pressure in there now. All the pressure has finally been released. Well, it lasts 2 droughts to say the very least. I can't be scientific anymore because I was on speed 5 and it started filling up. But let's quickly jump to a drought. We'll empty out these tanks, make sure there's no water in there. And while these tanks are draining here, we can reflect on the results of that experiment. So there is absolutely no reason to levy line your whole reservoir. Both of these reservoirs here dried out at the exact same time. So just terrain it up, get your bonus bit of irrigation. And the fact that we got 33 days without a water level drop in a 3x3 little box. How mental is that? That's over a drought. If you've got one of these and you've got a spare water source, just fill it up and you've got permanent irrigation. Absolutely permanent. Well, with all of that dried up, why don't we move on to our next experiment? This next experiment, we're going to run for a full 5 days, so we may as well get into the temperate season here and start filling these up. And I want to open up this one sluice here, the control sluice, because this experiment is all about how much water is actually stored up inside of these sealed caves here. So in the control lane, we've just got pure flow. Just let it all out and capture it in one big tank. How much water do you get and how much irrigation does that leave you with? Our next little test is, do we get any more or less water taped up in this cave here versus a sealed tank? And then a nice little bonus test is how much water actually gets wasted and pitched out the side versus kept in here. And we can compare that by doing a bit of this. I tell you what, considering the water level didn't drop inside of any of these sealed boxes for 33 days, I'm curious to see how much water just comes bursting out of these sluices like. And I've just unticked all of these close above depth boxes on here, because we want to have full explosions when we open these bad lads. We didn't want controlled explosions. And here we are, the waterfalls have slowed and stopped, the drought has started. We've officially got no water in the control tank because we left the sluice open. Let's let the water settle for half a day here. Oh, but you can see already we've got significantly more water by just letting that water source flow than letting it push out all the sides and at the same time fill up the box. Don't forget we've got a storage inside of these ones. It's not just what's on the deck. So now the water's had equal time to settle out and evaporate, I'm going to pause. Well, I was going to say click the stream gauge down here and see how high we are, but we're definitely above 3. Versus the 1.01 we're having the rest of these here. And we're also at 1.01 in the middle along here and all. Again, apart from here. 4.93! Bro, it's another bloody 4 blocks now on. And this is a huge reservoir and all here for 4 blocks worth of depth. I guess our only saving grace is open these bloody sealed caves, and unsealed caves to be fair, and see how much water has been built up in those pressurized caves there. You can tell the ones that have got pressure in them, the water's all the way up the top, versus the ones that didn't have pressure in them, the water's gone up and down and up and down. Let's have a quick dip, see if it's still up the top of the water pressure. It looks like, nah, not quite yet. It looks like it is, but it's quickly gone and down. And it's gonna enter and fall into the little lake here. Now let's give it another little half a day, just before sunset, and we'll stop and check our levels once again. So of course, we've only dropped water here, we haven't added any. In this lane, we've put 0.23 worth of depth in. This was at 1.01, so we've put half the water amount in from the sealed cave than an unsealed box. Now what about the sealed box? 0.23, 1.11, They're a little bit of evaporation, so we'll probably put in like 15 versus 2, 3. But there's definitely a little bit more water saved up inside of that little box that's sealed. And yeah, now look, our results are consistent all the way along. Now for this next experiment, we're going to be utilising this second little box that we've been just chilling, letting it do its thing. This is going to be our mega box. It's got a full 9 water sources in it. Oh, and they're flowing even though it's a drought. That's the joys of placing a water source. Don't worry, you didn't really get any water out of these at all. It'll dry up again any time. Now, I did just realise that I kind of put bloody platforms on top of the water sources and I can't rely on any modded platforms because, you know, I need mods. That's alright. There's still vanilla ways to be cheesy. It just takes up a hell of a lot more room. Now, look at that. Extra long, offset, knee good for anybody, but it does give us a tidy little access hole that we can delete and let the water force right out of there. Just in case the sluices are making it a little bit less epic, you know. We've got our little block we can break. Plus, this is hardly a scientific chamber, you know. We've got many water sources in there. But yeah, now I'm just going to while away some time watching the water evaporate, you know, as one does. As one does. Hold up. Water simulation, reset simulation. Let me click this. Please tell me all this water disappears. Oh, look at that. Oh, big time save. Huge time save. Alright, let me quickly test this out. Number 8. Do we get some water back now tomorrow? It's only a reset, so we should. Water. Water. There we go. We're coming back. We've got the water. It's all flowing. It's all getting ready for the next bit of experiment. Which I suppose we can just crack on with, can't we? They need to hang about here for bloody 15 minutes watching water evaporate at 4 FPS. Oh, and don't forget, we've got our big tank getting all the water pressure here. So this experiment I didn't even mention. I think I forgot to mention the purpose of half of these experiments beforehand. Like, we're going to be doing a 10-day fill, 10 days worth of pressure in all of the pressurized tanks. This experiment's a bit of a dual experiment action. We're going to be testing if the water now will stay for 66 days when level 3 instead of the sealed cave and the sealed terrain tank. But as well, will we get double the amount of water down inside the reservoir on the old sealed Levy tank there? We got 0.23 off 5 days. Should we get 0.46 off 10 days? There's only one way to find out. Here we are in the 30-day drought. So I was a bit confused because we started flooding over here, but it looked like it came at the bottom, not the top. But the water level is up at 9 like, so you know, no need to be confused. What we should be doing is checking this bit of tankage. So you can see we filled up all the way down to the bottom, a solid 0.38 on our 3-tiered reservoir here. So we'll see letting it flow out certainly does a lot better than letting it pish out the side of the map, because you only got 2.04 on yeah. Like I say, we're going to leave the sealed cave sealed, as well as this sealed box sealed. We're going to be opening this sluice here, and for shits and gigs. And let's see if I can get a mad angle, because I'm sure this is going to go mental. Deleting this levy here. How much water is stored up in here? Oh, not a lot. Alright, that was mildly disappointing. So how much we got across here? 0.20? 0.26, it hasn't quite settled yet. Fair enough, we'll give it a little bit of time to sell. The imaginary beavers have all clocked off. 0.21. I would say, margin of error-wise, we've got the same amount of water. 0.26. I would say that's the extra little block caused by the hour hang there. You see, we've got this extra little bit of blockage action here where the water can fill up. I mean, it makes sense. We're not creating extra volume inside of here. We're just doing a bit of pressure. I can wrap my head around those beaver physics, you know. Now all we need to wrap our head around is how long do these stay full here? If it scales linearly, it's 66 days. Because that 5-day temperate season pressurising tank session, that got us 33 days. And while we're doing our multi-long drought speedy up bit, how are you enjoying this different type of episode from us? I've done wee tests like this in the past, just, you know, on my own time. But I figured I'd bring you along for the journey this time. Maybe learn a thing or two along with me as well. And I was a bit slow on pausing there, but they went down 33 days. It's the exact same. Doesn't matter if you leave it 5 days or 10 days. Not that you can get more than 8 days on hard mode with a temperate season anyway. But there's a limit. And that limit seems to be 5 days. Genuinely, for at least a 3x3 area here, it seems to be 5 days. Why didn't we reset the water simulation here? The power of gods that we have. Now, we'll see, I've learned a fair bit this little episode in regards to how water pressure works and doesn't work, and how water doesn't magically increase in volume in caves. Why didn't we put all that to the test by increasing our water simulation speed by 10 times? That means when I press number 8 here, we're going to go from a 5-day temperate season to an equivalent of a 50-day temperate season. Oh, and yeah, I made what I think is going to be the most efficient ballin' little mega water storage system ever. And while we've got all of these sealed caves and whatnots filling up, why didn't I tell you why I reckon this is the ultimate little bit of solution we've got? So we found out that the sealed cave is marginally the best way to store your water, seconded by a sealed in bit of drought or a sealed in bit of levy. But we definitely found out that just letting your river flow without overflowing out the map and catching every last drippity drop of water that it pishes out is by far the best way to ensure you've got as much water as possible when it comes to keeping your tatties nice and moist. And look at the little wave we've got going on here. It's a fun little number to see. So why didn't we real casually just let this bad boy fill all the way to the tippity top? But not overspill. Ah, I said not overspill, not overspill. The reason I didn't want to let it overspill is this little bit of tank reservoir here has a little secret. If we dip on down, there's a secret passageway underneath the bottom tank. And if we click that sluice, we'll find it's closed. Let's open it up, dive on inside the dry bit of cave here, and watch it fill up like crazy. Oh, it's all the way up. And as you can see with our little lane here, we have the best of both worlds. If we dip underground, we'll see that our cave is full as a gun with water. The whole cave. So we've got a pressurized bit of tank under here, and we've got the rest of the reservoir up on the top. And since we're being as efficient as possible, why didn't we get our one and only double floodgate out here? These floodgates are supposed to be single highs. This little bit of terrain block on the top is just to doubly ensure that we don't have any crossover between lanes and waters for various experiments, you know. So why don't we while away the rest of these 50 watt long days and see just how much more efficient our big old sealed cave system is compared to our wee sealed caves. Oh yeah, and there's the bonus bit that I didn't tell you about. We're going to release all the water out of the sealed cave there to see if there is actually only 0.23 bits of water in there, when spread out across our huge reservoir, of course. And the falls have stopped falling. We've got 29.8 days left of this big old drought. Now I have a feeling we're gonna be tickety-boo. Now my first question is, how much water's in this bloody cave? Get out of there! Higher water simulation times is still times speed. Higher water simulation is still times 10. 0.23. Aye, if that's what it is, then that's what it is. I'm not gonna bloody whinge. Well, that is that confirmed. You don't create magical volume by sealing a cave. You just create magical pressure, which is what we're measuring up in here. And since we've still got 10 times water speed on, we should see that this evaporates after 3.3 days. But when does our list start evaporating? Me big owl sealed cave doing here. Will the sealed cave outlast this entire tank reservoir? So let's speed our way through to 27 days remaining, aka 30 days into a drought. And here we are, we're approaching 3 days. It should be at 26.7, 3.3 days equivalent. When we see this water down here, drippity drop off the top level. Let's see, 0.9, 0.8, the magic number, 0.7. Not quite, not yet. It's hanging about with its big 50 days, but not for long. 3.3 days worth of water. That is consistent. But I am curious how we're doing in the cave. And we can easily see that by turning off the terrain here. Begone, terrain! Well, this is mildly complicated to look at, isn't it? We've got the step down tanks, and then we've got the step up tank in here. And there you can see it going down there, step by step. Again, this is the outside on the right. So if I'm not mistaken, this bit of water here is the top of the cave. The top of the pressurized bit. And this bit of water here should be completely separate to the water outside here in its evaporation rate, because this is a sealed system here compared to this on the right. So I've just dug around here, and then this is the level. This little bit of strip here is a bit of terrain block that I didn't place. So this is at the same level as these ones and the rest of this, which is actually quite handy. Thank you, past MiGly, for not placing these terrain blocks. And you can already see that we're losing a bit of water level from one of the 3 blocks. Our main thing that we want to watch for is the water level over here. Oh, it's all went down at the exact same time. Well, there's the answer question then, isn't it? But what we did see there is we went well past 3.3 days inside the seal under here. So I'd say it may well be worth it to create big, massive seals underneath your slopes, which you can do now in Update 7. Well, I learnt a bloody fair dinkum amount there. I was working under the assumption that you just got infinite water / infinite water pressure if you just pumped caves and tanks full and full and full. That's not the case at all. You are significantly better off not letting any water run out your map and utilising and storing it all in the beaveriest way possible, which is probably going to lead to some crazy situations on future maps. Oh no. While we reset the water simulation speed here, let's place down all of these water sources. Press number 8 to enter into cycle 12, which is the cycle that will close off this episode here. And while we have our lovely lanes here perfectly filling up our lovely little bit of decoration / artwork, I want to thank everybody and anybody that's made it this far into the episode here. As I touched on earlier in the episode, this is the first one of these little types of videos I've ever done. I do have something else I want to test out, so there may be another episode, unless everybody just bloody hates it. But if yous have any ideas, anything you want to see us test in Timberborn, especially if it's Update 7 specific. This is more Update 6 specific than Update 7 specific. Aye, let us know, because this was a canny fun little episode. As much as it might be quite simple to some of yous here, I feel like I fully understand the fundamentals of water and water pressure within Timberborn, and it's certainly not the way I was operating previously, I'll tell you that for now. And I hope yous have learned something just like I have. But that's enough of my yapping. I'll be seeing yous on Monday. Fireside. Toodaloo!